Hey everyone, welcome to Moving Matt. We do all things cameras with a dash of vlogs and a little bit of travel. And this is Camera Wars, the show where we give you the latest camera news and let you know just how the battle is heating up. First up, Sigma officially announced the 150-600 f5 to 6.3. This lens has been getting slightly mixed reviews, but overall on the positive side. Jared Poland said he'd recommend spending the extra $400 to go with the Sony equivalent, but of course he would say that the Sony money truck was right around the corner. The usually extremely valuable DP Reviews gave their thoughts on the lens, and while most of their review was great as usual, it did have one glaring flaw, and that was that the lens was reviewed on a Panasonic camera. So they said they were having focusing issues.
No shit.
Assuming that Panasonic was the problem, this lens does have a super cool telescoping zoom feature and is aggressively priced at $14.99, which is only $100 more than the 150-500 f5 to 6.7 from Tamron. So with this lens, it looks like Sigma stole the thunder. But in an attempt to steal it back, Tamron announced two very interesting lenses. The first is the sequel to the already impeccable 28-75 2.8. This lens looks to step up the overall build quality and adds the side button found in most Sony and Sigma lenses. No word on the price of this lens just yet, but if I had to guess, it will come in at $899 like its predecessor and better compete with the new Sigma. And they will drop the original down to $779 and then more likely discontinue it fairly soon. But that wasn't the only lens that Tamron announced. Interestingly enough, they announced the first f2 zoom for the FE system, something that I bet Sony is hard at work on themselves. This new lens will have a 35 to 150 focal length and will vary from f2 to 2.8. While it's super cool that they were able to accomplish this, as a primarily video shooter, I will more likely keep it fixed at 2.8 either way. No word on the price of this one either, but I think $12.99 or $13.99 makes a lot of sense. More than likely, the latter. But speaking of something that is likely, it is looking more and more likely that the Sony A7 IV will be delayed. According to a press release by Sony, the chip shortages are causing bad delays for the Sony A7S III, and if they can't even really keep up with the demand of the A7S III, should we really be expecting an A7 IV coming in the next few months? Now, something that is possible and could give a glimmer of hope is maybe they were having a chip shortage in the A7S III because they are holding back chips for the A7 IV. Now maybe that is just wishful thinking, but my favorite Australian Sony lover, David Ostler, I'm David Ostler. No, it's not British. He's Australian. He talks like this a little bit. I wish I could talk like it, but I can't. Oh, come on, guys. That's a little closer. Okay, never mind. It kind of sounds like a hobbit now. Now maybe that's just wishful thinking, but my favorite Australian Sony lover, David Ostler, thinks it's a possibility as well. I guess only time will tell, but if we can gather anything from this news, it's that the Sony A7 IV, if it is released this year, will be a very short supply. And finally, Panasonic has given us a bit more information about the GH6. In a press release commemorating the 20-year anniversary of the G series, they doubled down saying that this camera would be released by the end of 2021. And they also offered a little more on the specs, saying it would have 422 10-bit DCI 4K 60, and casually jabbed that this would be reliable enough to record continuous footage for the desired duration. But with the slight caveat that it needs to be in the certified operating temperature, which they did not specify. To be honest, I would hope it could do 4K 60 with no overheating. That should be one of the few advantages of having a micro four thirds sensor. A couple of the other notable specs is that it will have 4K 120 and also 5.6K at up to 60 frames per second, but they conveniently failed to mention if overheating would be an issue in those modes. I guess I can appreciate that Panasonic is trying to reassure us that no overheating will be a problem with this camera, but let's be real, Panasonic, no one's worried about your overheating, they're worried about your terrible autofocus. And unfortunately, the longer you go without mentioning it makes us think it's the same old contrash. But those are just my thoughts. What about yours? Do you think Panasonic is finally going to change autofocusing? Are you excited about this camera? Drop in the comment section below and let me know. Well, that is the current state of the camera wars. If you've liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And until next time, peace.